Okay, this is just a quick little video to announce that I'm starting a new reading project, which is the grammar book, an ESL/EFL Teacher's Course, 2nd edition, by Marianne, Celce-Murcia, and Diane Larsen-Freeman. So, why am I starting this book now? Well, I have been struggling with Chomsky's Universal Grammar. This is a book, I've actually talked about it on this channel a couple of times before, mainly saying it's been one of those books I've been meaning to get around to forever. The past month, I've finally started chugging away at this. It's been on my quote-unquote TBR. I say quote-unquote because I tell people I'm reading it, but I haven't really been reading it. But this past month, I've really been trying to dig into this, 250 pages into it, and the further along I get, the more lost I am. And if I ever do finish this book, and I hope I will, I'll talk about that in more detail when I review this book specifically, what was giving me such a hard time. But I began to figure that maybe some of the problem getting into Chomsky's Universal Grammar is that maybe I didn't have a good enough background in the basics of grammar itself. Now, I do actually know a bit of grammar. I've been teaching English for a number of years abroad. I've taken a couple college courses on grammar. I've read a number of grammar books and reviewed some of them on this YouTube channel, The English Verb by Michael Lewis, About Language by Scott Thornberry, etc. But most of those are pedagogical grammars. So they're grammars designed for the English teacher to teach English, and they're not really a formal linguistic grammar. So, for example, I know all about verb phrases, phrase is the wrong word. I know about verb structures, aspect, voice, tense. I can tell you what's the difference between the present perfect and the past perfect, etc. But what I don't have a good handle on is some of the more technical linguistic terms in here, like theta roles, or government, or binding theory, or C command, or that kind of stuff. That's what's really throwing me for a loop. And a lot of that terminology is just kind of getting your head around Chomsky's theories. But some of this does have a background in general grammar, like government does. So I was thinking maybe I should try and bone up on my general linguistic theory grammar before getting much further into this technical introduction to Noam Chomsky's Universal Grammar. Now, I'm currently living in Vietnam, so my access to books is limited. You know, if I was living back home, I'd probably get a linguistic grammar, but excuse me. I'm limited to the books we have at our school shelf. This one, the grammar book, I'm somewhat familiar with this. I used this before when I was doing the Delta. But I've never read it actually straight through, and I was looking through it. And again, like I said, I am quite familiar with a lot of the pedagogical grammar that's usually used in teaching English. But this looked like it might be a nice bridge between that kind of grammar and some of the more technical stuff. For example, they do have a lot of sentence trees in here of the Chomskyan variety. Here, let me grab the camera. So you can see there's some of this going on here. And it does look like they do have some more technical grammar terms. Probably most of this, again, given my background, a lot of this is going to be stuff I already know. But I think some of this, at least some of this, is going to go some ways to bridging the gap between the knowledge I have of pedagogical grammar and some of the more technical linguistic terms. I'm a bit worried. I've got this bad habit of always starting new books before I finish the book I'm currently reading. I'm a bit worried that's what I'm going to be doing now, which is, you know, get halfway through this book, then get distracted by something else. But my plan at the moment fingers crossed, is to try and read this book concurrently. So this book kind of boning up on my base about grammar basics, and then try and work on this book for something more challenging. I say fingers crossed because I now have a family, a wife and a daughter, almost 2-year-old daughter. And you know that old thing parents always say, my time is not my own. That's really true. My time is not my own to a large extent. I mean, even just filming this video just now had to be negotiated with my wife, saying, okay, you can watch the baby for the next 10 or 15 minutes. I'm going to go film this video, etc. But I do manage to get some reading done during my lunch break at work, a little bit sometimes after the baby goes to sleep at night, etc. So I'm going to try to use my free time more effectively, you know, waste less time on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, and hopefully that will carve out some more flexibility in my reading schedule. I started this book at work today, and I'm already at a chapter and a half in, and it is starting out from the very basics. Of course, that's what you expect in the first chapter. It's highly readable. So I expect I'm going to, even though this book is much longer, this is about 800 pages. This book's only a little over 300 pages, but boy, I have a hard time reading more than about 5 or 10 pages of this at a time before my brain just fries up. Like this book is very hard going for me. So even though this book is longer, it might be quicker reading. I've read one book by Diane Larsen-Freeman before, which is, what was it? Techniques and Principles in Language Teaching, I believe was the name, which, despite that rather intimidating sounding name, was highly readable. I've actually reviewed that book before on this channel. Marianne Celce-Murcia, I've not read any of her books before, but I recognize the name. She's quite recognizable in the field of language teaching. I believe she is responsible for one of the phonemic charts of American English pronunciation. Either that or it's somebody else with the same name, because there's a Celce-Murcia chart which is in circulation. So yeah, that's basically all I have to say. I'm hoping that this book will be just challenging enough that it won't be all review of things I've already learned over the years. Because again, I do have a background in at least pedagogical grammar, not the formal linguistic grammar. And it looks, just flipping through this, it looks like it will be a bit. Either way, I'm sure this won't be a waste of time, because you know it's never a bad idea to review grammar if you're an English teacher. And again, I did use this as a reference book when I was researching the Delta. Delta is a qualification for English language teachers, and just in case anybody's watching this who's not part of the field. And I do remember finding some very useful information on the present perfect when I was doing that, which was what I was researching at the time. They gave some interesting research on how it's actually used in real life by native speakers. So just based on that brief encounter with this book, there should be a lot of interesting things in it. Other than that, I'm going to save any further thoughts for when I finish the book and come back with a full review, which will hopefully be sooner rather than later. I mean, I'm a slow reader, so you know, I expect like a couple months under the best of times for me to work through a book like this, but I do hope to come back sometime with a full review once I've finished the book.